Hey, my friend, welcome to day number 15 as we crack open the gospel according to John. We just read John chapters 1 through 4. And I know some of y'all wanted the book of Exodus. I think y'all just thought it was coming because we just did Genesis. But we're going to jump to the New Testament and read the gospel according to John. Because John, he opens up this whole can of worms, who Jesus actually is before he ever does anything. Like in the grand scheme of the cosmos, we see who Jesus is. We see him creating before he creates anything, before the new birth, before living water, and before true worship at the story at the woman at the well. We see who he is and how all of these stories of what he does flows from who he is. And the overarching theme of these 4 chapters is the Word who reveals God by becoming human. I couldn't be more excited to get in here. And when I read this, I think John wants us to ask a question from the very first sentence. Who is Jesus? Who is this Jesus? Is he a teacher? Is he a prophet? Is he a miracle worker? Or is he something far more greater? And John answers this question before we get into the second verse or the second sentence of John chapter 1. Here's how he does it. He uses a word. He uses a shocking word. He uses a very ancient Greek word when he says, in the beginning was the Word. And the word, the Greek word that he used for word is logos. It doesn't mean a name. The logos, the word, it's not a name. It's not a title. It's actually a very deep theological claim. And logos means this about Jesus, that Jesus is God's own self-expression. That's what logos means in context of John talking about Jesus. He is God's inner mind made visible in human life. You see this word logos, that's serious. It means way more than just a spoken word. And I know that's how we have it rendered here in our English as word. And that has good reasoning behind it, but it's deeper than that. It means more than spoken word. It means thought expressed in reality. It means meaning revealed, like a word that shows you what you are thinking. Like imagine, like I'm one of these magicians and I just say, think about something, and I write it down and I show you. That is what Jesus is when it comes to the thoughts of God. Jesus is God's thoughts in human form, in reality for us to experience. And Jesus shows us what God is actually like. He is God's invisible nature. God's invisible nature is now visible through Jesus. And John actually, he's doing something far deeper than just using some Greek term. He is translating a Hebrew idea into this Greek language. And the Hebrew word or idea that John is pulling into Greek is debar, which means God's active speech. And this is why I believe English translators use the word because it does come from this idea of God's active speech. It's like when God speaks, something happens. Creation happened, covenant happened, salvation happened, and it comes through God's word. Genesis 1 talks about God said, let there be light, and there was light. And it talks about all these prophets in the book of Genesis and all of the Old Testament scriptures. It indicates that all of the prophets are all powered by divine speech. And that means Jesus is the divine speech, the logos. So if a prophet prophesies, it is via the logos of Jesus. And he's not just a messenger, he is the actual message. Prophets speak God's word. Prophets speak logos. And Jesus is God's word. And God does not merely talk. It's not just words. It is visible. He shows up. Revelation becomes a person, not just a sentence of characters put together in any kind of language. And John shows that the Logos has always been God. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Not created, not promoted, but always has been, always will be, eternal. He's also distinct in relationship. He's a person, and he's one in nature. He has the very essence of God. This indicates that the Son has always been face to face with the Father. Then the Logos in this narrative does something that no one expected. It says that the Word became flesh, that God entered into human weakness. He experienced hunger. He experienced pain. He clearly experience mortality on this side of the cross, the Creator stepped in to his creation. And we talked a little bit about Philippians 2 the other day while we were in Genesis, but Jesus has this Philippians 2 style of humility in human form. And ultimately, the Logos reveals what God has always been like. He's always been this way. We don't have two different versions of God, one in the Old Testament and one in the New Testament. No, Jesus reveals to us. He says in other places in the gospel that everything I do is what I've seen my Father do. He came full of grace and full of truth, not harsh power, not distant purity and piety, but relational holiness. The heart of God walking in human skin. And so, with all of that in mind about who Jesus is as the Logos, we zoom back out a little bit with these 4 chapters that we read today. And they all can make a little more sense now. If Jesus actually is God and he is the expression of God in human form, it makes sense how he can look at the teacher of teachers, Nicodemus, and talk about new birth. Or he can sit down on the well next to the Samaritan woman and talk about living water. And he can talk to his disciples about true worship and what that really looks like. Because if he is the Logos, that means every encounter flows from who he is, the Logos. Jesus is God speaking directly to broken human lives. So let him speak to your life today. And know that if you hear a word from Jesus, you are hearing the very thoughts of God. Love you guys. Thank you for sticking with me. I'll see y'all in the discussion room. Love y'all.